Thank you, General. I would like to start by asking each of you, what is your leading readiness concern as we think about where we stand? Appreciate the testimony that you've given, but if you can tell me, what is the thing that keeps you up at night, readiness-wise?
Thanks, Madam Chair. For the United States Army, our #1 readiness risk is sequestration. We must have sustainable and predictable and sustained funding to deliver the readiness that our combatant commander require to meet the missions that continue to emerge. So elimination of sequestration is our greatest risk to future readiness.
Madam Chair, I would echo those comments. I was at the fleet when we actually sequestered. We ended up canceling deployments, shifting maintenance periods to meet the savings required to meet the new budget top line. And the ripple effect of that goes through the years. You not only lose the maintenance time, but you lose qualification time for people, and that experience set can never be bought back because you can't get the time back. So particularly for us as a capital-intensive force, having a stable budget, being able to procure and maintain our ships with certainty allows us to maintain a ready fleet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I concur with both the VCA, Vice Chief of the Army and the VCNO. The continued impacts of sequestration are felt over multiple years. We have not had a stable fiscal planning environment for 3 years now. So we continue to make hard trade-offs, and we mortgage our future readiness because we're trying to fight today's fight. So I have concerns about capacity and future readiness, and everything we do is trade space, and we need some top-line relief, ma'am. Thank you.
Ma'am, and I'll just continue the same dialogue. When we stopped flying when we were sequestered, we shut down and grounded 31 fighter squadrons. And when an Air Force stops flying, it's actually felt across the enterprise. Because not only is it the aircrew that stopped training, it's the air traffic controllers that stopped training. It's the folks that actually all participate in producing air power, and it extends into the depots that all work towards becoming our readiness engine. And so for us, we're still climbing out of the impacts of sequestration. And I would just add one point is that we also broke faith with our airmen, especially our civilian airmen. When they were furloughed, we lost a number of them who decided that if the company was not invested in them, they were not going to stick with the company. So for us, repeal of sequestration is job one. Thank you.
Thank you all. General Goldfein, I wanted to have you provide us an update on the KC-46A and where they stand with delivery to Pease. And also, I saw in the Air Force request that you've requested funding in 2017 for a KC-46A fuselage trainer at Pease. Is that important training resource as we base the KC-46A at Pease?
Yes, ma'am. So right now, the KC-46 is on track to meet both their required aircraft availability delivery date, which is 18 aircraft in August of 17. We have had some testing delays, and the impact of that is that in a normal schedule, we would have aircraft be produced. We would induct them into the Air Force. We would do the maintenance and the testing on those. What's happening is, even though we believe they're going to be able to meet their required aircraft delivery date, we're going to get a number of aircraft all at once. So as we work our way through that, we believe that we're going to be able to absorb that in the first 2 bed downs, which is Altus and McConnell. And so by the time they actually get to Pease Air Force Base, we believe that we'll actually be back on track. So we're watching that very closely. We have had some issues lately with some boom axial loads, but we think we actually have the software fix in place. So we're on track, we believe, to meet the IOC dates.
Excellent, appreciate it, and I know that our airmen and all at Pease are anxiously waiting and ready, so we appreciate it, the update, and will keep us updated on where things stand there. I wanted to ask Admiral Howard, you and I talked about the Virginia-class submarine, and of course you've been to the shipyard, and I appreciate your visit there. Right now, are we able to meet all the combatant commanders' requests for support from our attack submarine fleet?
Ma'am, thank you for that question. Across our entire fleet, we're not able to meet the combatant commander request. And generally, their accumulated request is about 3 times higher than the force that we have. And so our SSNs and their multi-missions are very important to the combatant commanders.
And so as you talked about in your opening testimony, the size of the fleet, obviously, our attack submarine fleet's phenomenal, but presence is very important, especially as we think about the Asia-Pacific region and also the Middle East and various areas around the world that we have to cover. As I look at right now under the Navy's current plan, you and I talked about this, but by 2021, we're at producing 1 Virginia-class submarine a year versus 2. And I know that Secretary Stackley had testified that he would be open to the idea of if you were able to have achieve enough savings in the Ohio-class replacement program that he would like to see you purchase 2 in 2021. Now, I understand you can't answer that question now until you know what the planning is and investment in the Ohio-class program going forward. But do you agree with Secretary Stackley that if, obviously, if this were something that you were able to achieve the savings and we were to give you the certainty that you needed, that there is an urgency and importance to making sure that we continue to build up and strive for the 2 production of Virginia-class submarines from 2021 going forward?
Yes, Senator, I do. In our last force structure assessment, we believe we need about 48 SSNs. As we've been buying 2 a year, then as the older ones start to reach the end of their life cycle, we will be down to 48 in 24, and then we continue to drop in numbers until we get into this bathtub in the 20s. And so we, in order to make sure we don't get to that bathtub, we're going to have to continue to build 2, and we're going to have to figure out how to get there. In terms of the Ohio replacement, one of our issues will be whether or not we will have to manage that funding for that asset. It's a strategic asset, and I certainly appreciate this group's work on the Strategic Deterrence Fund. But if we have to fund Ohio replacement within our budget top line, that will affect all of shipbuilding and actually affect the rest of the conventional force as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Admiral Howard.